My name is Ariel Zirulnick. I'm a freelance journalist based in Nairobi, Kenya. I first traveled up to the northeast of the country about a year ago in January 2015, working on a different story about religious coexistence. But I also arrived there in the earliest weeks of teachers' desertion of northeast Kenya. Al-Shabab had attacked a bus full of civil servants from other parts of Kenya traveling to Mandera just about a month and a half before and killed 6 teachers and a number of other civil servants. And that had prompted teachers, doctors, nurses, all kinds of sort of social service providers to desert the northeast of the country, to the predominantly Somali part of the country that's quite isolated from the rest of Kenya. And what I was struck by is that these schools were just expected to fend for themselves. There was no sort of effort to stop the desertion of the schools, to convince teachers to stay, to make them feel safe enough to come back. And that made me want to come back and explore how this desertion, how this abandonment made Kenyan Somalis view their Kenyan citizenship, their relationship with the state, and look at the implications that has for Kenya's security and also for the long-term relationship between Kenyan Somalis and the Kenyan government. I went back this December, about a year after my first visit with photographer Will Swanson, and we wanted to look at how the counties of Northeast were fending a year after this desertion, and also look into some of the actions by the security apparatus that were driving even deeper divisions between Kenyan Somalis and the rest of the country. We went up there both to look at how the schools were faring and also to look at the disappearances and deaths. It's a string of unexplained disappearances and deaths of Kenyan Somalis in the last 2 years since Al-Shabab attacked Westgate Mall. And what we found was that in the case of education and social services, the counties were having to do it themselves, and that was really remarkable. The resilience was really impressive, but also it has really problematic implications for them feeling like they don't need the Kenyan government. They don't need the Kenyan state to do anything for them. It separates them even more than they already have been. They've been on the margins since the 1960s when they fought a secessionist war against the Kenyan government that they lost. And their loyalty has been distrusted ever since then. That's only been exacerbated since Al-Shabab began staging attacks in Kenya in 2011. And in addition to that, we looked into these disappearances and deaths of Kenyan Somalis by the Kenyan security services. And what we found is people feeling like they couldn't win. On one side, they had Al-Shabaab, and on one side, they had the Kenyan security services. And we were able to talk to families who had no idea what had happened to their sons and daughters. The Kenyan government wouldn't acknowledge disappearances. And that story ran in the Washington Post a few weeks ago. We were able to get into the Christian Science Monitor, the stories about the education situation in Northeast, and I think there's a lot to watch there. Their relationship with the state is deteriorating even as they figure out how to fend for themselves, and that has really profound security implications for Kenya going forward.